going on, everybody? Patrick Auger here with Mr. Matthew Wells and Mr. Drake Riggs. And Henry Cejudo, Triple C, the king of cringe, recently did an interview with Combate where he stated that it seems like he's more than willing to come back, and it's just working out the financials to make it happen that's holding up his return to the octagon. This is a rough translated article here, but essentially what he said was, I think I'm more for the Brazilian than him when he's talking about Deiveson Figueiredo. For me, this guy is just taking care of my belt. He's babysitting my belt. When I decide to go back, the belt will come back with me. I need to talk to Dana White and see how much money we're talking about. I miss fighting, but I need a motivation for all of this. If he gives me what I want, the God of War, speaking about Figueiredo, will face Triple C. So that is the type of quote that makes it seem like it's just, financials, and it's not. I'm hanging up the gloves like Khabib or GSP has, where, I'm done, I'm retired. Really just trying to get the money that he wants. Am I wrong here, Mr. Wells?
No, you're right. And that's been a gripe from him for a long time. He got paid very little to fight Demetrius Johnson the first time. I believe the payout was $60,000 to fight the GOAT of the flyweight division. And I remember that being a huge talking point around the time, and a lot of criticism coming down on Ali for getting his fighter in a title fight for so little pay. And, he's a guy that deserves to be paid really well for what he's done in his career. 2-division champ, talks about wanting to be a third and a fourth and intergender champion and all this craziness that he talks about. But I mean, listen, in all seriousness, the guy deserves to be one of the top paid athletes in the UFC. How close it's going, if it becomes a reality and how close he gets to that, that's still very much up in the air, because we're seeing the UFC right now. They're trying to save money. They're trying to penny pinch as much as possible. So unless if it results on the back end with putting Henry Cejudo on the card, I don't see this happening.
Yeah, I mean, UFC is definitely in a financial crunch right now, mostly because of Endeavor, the parent company, not so much them. They're still making a nice profit. But, you mentioned Cejudo's pay there initially, right? $60,000 to fight Demetrius Johnson. And it really seems like flyweight has been just kind of that, lower tiered pay. DJ never got pay-per-view points. We just saw Figueiredo talk about wanting pay-per-view points, and apparently the promotion granting it to him. Cejudo might have seen that, and, that makes him think, okay, looks like flyweight's getting a little bit hotter now. I can go ahead and come back, try and get that belt, maybe go back to bantamweight, become a 2-division champ, get the money that I rightfully deserve. Drake, is that sound feasible? Is this why Cejudo is talking about this now?
It all just seems like too much of a, strategy that wasn't very well thought out, I would say, because the fact that he intentionally drops the titles by retiring and then waits in a sport where very short-term memory, it's a what have you done for me lately kind of sport. It just doesn't seem like the smartest idea to get exactly what he wants. Yes, of course, he's still a big name, a great fighter, one of my GOATs, I will have you know. I don't know. I don't know how well it will end up working out for him. But at the same time, if they're still willing to give guys like Cody Garbrandt immediate title shots here at this division, what's to stop Cejudo from getting back in there? Beside from the money, of course, which sure he's asking for a little bit more than Cody and everything, even though they are both managed by Ali as well. So then Henry could leverage off of that. He's like, all right, what are you doing with Cody? What was the deal there and all that? So it makes for a little interesting backstage dynamic there. I don't know, man. It's I could see it happening, but again, flyweight, there's a lot going on right now, at least with, Figueiredo and Moreno going to have that rematch, see what happens in the meantime. Askarov is coming up. I don't remember if he has a fight booked right now, blanking on that, but he's right in line. Things are getting very interesting at flyweight, and then bantamweight, of course, always interesting. Cejudo's talked, shit to Sterling and Yan, plenty of those guys that he hasn't fought yet. So he has a lot of options, definitely, but I just really don't know how the UFC will approach him. in terms of how valuable they think, if he's a big enough star to throw right back into a title fight, especially in these divisions, more so bantamweight, I would say, than flyweight, which have a lot going on and maybe some more interesting immediate things happening. Even I didn't even mention Sanhagen. Like, there's guys in there that fans are really interested in seeing finally get these title opportunities and everything, like Sterling finally. That it's like, how much would the general fan be clamoring to see Cejudo in these matchups? As somebody who thinks he's a phenomenal fighter, I would love to. But then the purist in me is like, yeah, these guys, let's finally give them their shot. Because Cejudo kind of ruined things a little bit there in terms of having the fluctuation with, actual proper title contenders and the right title fights happening by bouncing around, which more power to him. He made it happen and all that. But can he do it again after this time away and just kind of essentially admitting and laying out his game plan? I don't know. I really have no idea how it's going to play out, but I would love to see him back from just a fighter standpoint. That would be amazing.
Yeah, I think it would be great to see him back. But guys, we've got some good opinions here, but I got to bring in just one more guy here to just give us an opinion. Mr. Ant Walker joins us.
I mean, it was my thoughts that he was going to come back when he initially announced his retirement. So this sounds about right. I believe we, at least one or two of us on this panel right now, at some point right after his retirement said, yeah, within like a year and a half, we expect to see him back. So this is right on line. Like this is the exact time we'd expect. The money talk coming from presumably the other side of the cage against him in Deiveson Figueiredo, it all makes perfect sense. Even his own manager, Ali Abdelaziz, was saying, yeah, Cejudo this is all about the money. Cejudo's going to be back. So this is something we knew all along. I'm not shocked about this one bit. And I guess if he is going to make a return to flyweight, which I doubt simply because of the as big as he gets, the trouble that he'd make cutting back down to 125. If he were to try to do that again, no better time to do it after having the flyweight title produce one of the greatest fights of 2020. The talk around the division is higher than it's been in quite some time. So yeah, the demand is there. Why not? Bantamweight also heating up right now with Aljamain Sterling finally getting his title shot against Petr Yan. So that division is going to be a hot topic of conversation. This is the appropriate time for Cejudo to come back if he decides to.
Making sense to me, man. So make sure you like this video. You hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. If you have, thank you so much. Hit that notification button to be in the elite 10%. Get notifications whenever we drop videos here. So, gentlemen, we've all seemed to be in consensus here that it makes sense a little bit for financials. Drake's a little bit differing, but I could respect that because it is an interesting strategy. I'm not sure it was the best way to play that. But let's get down to the predictions in terms of give me your percentage of does Cejudo come back, does he not? We'll start with you, Drake, since you thought this strategy was a little unsound.
I thought you were going to ask for predictions if he becomes champion again. I guess we could answer that question too.
Yeah, you know what? Throw that in there as well. All
right. Okay. The chances of him coming back. I'm going to say a 45. I don't want to go a complete 50. I don't know. I feel like you got to think too. He's a guy who's been competing his entire life. Like, I think he won't just come back to come back. He's going to make sure he gets what he wants if he is going to come back. So with that in mind, and how I presented it is like, I don't know if the UFC, I'm not sure they're going to be willing to do that with everything that's going on. Doesn't make me super optimistic about it. As I said, I would love to see it, but I'll go with a 45, an unconfident 45. But then as for if he would become champion again, I'll tell you guys right now, I am done doubting Henry Cejudo. No, if he faces Figueiredo or Yan, he knocks out both of them.
Bold statement. I like it. That's faith. That's faith in Triple C. Mr. Wells, what are your percentages that he comes back? And are you as confident as Drake is that he would knock out Figueiredo or Yan?
Well, I'll tell you what, my percentages have just gone up by sheer, willingness to see these fights now. Drake has me convinced. So I'm going to go ahead and bump up my percentage to about a 78%. I had it around a 65, but now that he said he's going to come back and knock these dudes out, I want to see it. So you've convinced me to up my percentages. And yes, come back, Cejudo, please. I think the reason why we will see him is because, like I mentioned, he was willing to take the title fight for so little pay initially. So that means he's shown, unless he's gone a complete 180 and, he's not taking anything other than what he wants anymore, he's shown in the past that he's willing to bend a little bit just to have opportunities to compete. So I have him at a very high percentage of returning. I don't know if it'll happen this year, but if we don't see him by 2022, I will be very surprised.
And do you think he's going to get the belt? Are you confident he's going to knock out Yan and Figueiredo here?
Knockout is a very strong word. Strong take. I will say that those will be incredible fights, possibly fight of the night contenders. I will say that. Okay.
Playing it safe, not give it a real percentage. I like it.
Riding the fence. Riding the fence. Yes.
I like it. Mr. Walker, sir.
Well, I won't be nearly as political as Mr. Wells on this one. I'll be about the bold claims. And if I had a voice as sultry as Mr. Riggs, I'd be more confident in the words that I'm about to say now. But I think that there's an 80% chance Cejudo comes back. And that only 20% is leeway for if his body is just through with high level athletics and he decide, okay, I can't physically do this anymore. That's one thing. But Henry Cejudo was not someone who was a mainstream name. It's not like he's being offered movie roles. He's unlikely to pop up as the next WWE star. And even if he was offered an opportunity like that, he'd have to get out of his UFC contract first. It's not like he's going to go to another promoter and make a bunch of money because that UFC contract is going to be sitting there holding him up. So I don't think he has much of an option. If he wants to make the sort of money that he makes, even if he's underpaid for his services, if he wants to make that sort of money, competing at the highest levels of the UFC's flyweight or bantamweight division is the best way he gets it. So he's going to come back when those bills come due. Now, as far as what he does once he returns, I think he does finish Yan. I think he can get that bantamweight title back. Now, if that belt circulates around some of the other top names in the division, we have a different conversation. We have an entirely different conversation if Aljamain Sterling emerges victorious at UFC 259. We've got a different conversation depending on what TJ Dillashaw looks back in his return and see if that extra 10 pounds means his chin is a little more properly protected. So I do think Henry Cejudo is going to return, and under the current circumstances of both the flyweight and bantamweight divisions, he can earn those belts back. I think he finishes Figueiredo as well. I mean, that's what we're going to get. But should those belts change hands, anybody's guess. But I'm still not sold on him actually making it to 125 ever again.
Strong words there. And it's hard to, argue too much against them. For me, I'm going to go bold here in my first prediction. I'm 100% guaranteeing that Henry Cejudo makes the walk again. Even if it's 6 years from now and he Rampage Jacksons it and just gets, hit, just falls over, I think he shows up for a payday at some point to get back in the octagon. So I think he's 100% coming back. When? Can't give you that, but probably this year or next year would be my guess. But I can't imagine him not in the UFC at least one more time. As to the belts and the percentages there, I'm going to go the opposite of Mr. Walker not really, because he said he beat Figueiredo too. So I think he beats Figueiredo. That's Figueiredo's one loss came to Jussier Formiga, and I think Cejudo has similar skills, just better than Formiga, that could neutralize Figueiredo. And yes, there was the last minute weight cut and all that, but I still think that he just gives him too many problems. If he can make it back down to flyweight, I think he gets the belt there. I disagree that he knocks out Yan. I think Yan ends up either giving him a tough decision loss or knocks him out, frankly, personally. I think he can do well against some other contenders. I think maybe against Dillashaw, I'd still favor him a little bit just because Dillashaw, doesn't have the best striking defense in the world. but it would depend on who the belt is on, is where I would go there. But I would say I'd give him about a 60% chance of being a double champion again, and I'd give him about an 80% chance of holding one belt again if he came back. That's my bold stuff right there. So with that in mind, let us know in the comments if you think Henry Cejudo is coming back, when he's coming back, who you'd like to see him face, how does he do at bantamweight, how does he do at flyweight? Let us know all that. And lastly, let's just do a real quick poll here of we've got too many people in the room. We got to kick somebody out. Okay, it's Ant. So we got to just, all right, buy it. There we go.
You can't get rid of me that easy. I'm back.